Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second installment of Conversations with Friends in Israel. And we are so lucky to have Matuka and Svi, maybe it sounds like, here to join us
Hello.
today. Hello. Uh, Old friends, recently new Olim. And Matuka has been doing some really amazing work in Israel around farming. And so we agreed today was a perfect day to honor Tu B'Shvat and Matuka's story at the same time. And hopefully we'll also hear about some of the beautiful art that Matuka does. And we're here, Matuka, to listen to you and support you and shower you guys with love from afar. So I will turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. And thank you for arranging this. It's really sweet of you guys, and it's nice to see some familiar faces and names. Um, okay, so Svi and I, Svi, we made Aliyah from Skokie back in May. So not so long ago, and definitely not long before the war started. Um, but we had a few good months of summer and break um before it all started. Um so at the beginning of the fall, I had started taking old pond classes, and then at the start of the war everything just got canceled. And that was originally like a switch to Zoom. Sweet, I don't want any pictures of me, thank you very much. um And I decided that a better way to spend this time was to find ways to volunteer and get involved, rather than try to do Ulpan via Zoom. That just didn't feel like a good use of time. And I guess like 2 weeks or so into the start of the war, I started seeing post after post of farmers really just pleading with the general population of Israel to um, volunteer on their farms, um, because all of their farm help had left. So in Israel, the majority of farm helpers are um, Thailandi or Arab. And so um, the the Palestinians who were living in Gaza or in the West Bank no longer had visas to come in. Their work visas were suspended, and then so those or farmers felt uncomfortable, and so they let those workers go. But also Thailand, uh, I guess, requested firmly that all of their citizens return back to Thailand. So in a matter of a few days, farmers we went from having farmers went from having 20 farm help to maybe one person who remained. Um, and I mean, what that does to someone's livelihood, to the produce of Israel, to farms, it's devastating. And so we started seeing these posts of farmers begging people to come volunteer, do whatever they can, help in whatever way they're able to. Um, Now, we had recently moved to Israel, and I had actually never even driven outside of Modi'in because I'd only had a car for about a month. And especially in the beginning of the war, we were terrified to leave Modi'in. You know, I hadn't gone anywhere. We were scared to drive around, to walk places because we just didn't know. There was just so much fear and so much unknown. And um, at any given point, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to take my kids to the park. But that's complicated to do because what if a rocket comes in while I'm at the park with my kids, and anywhere that I'm walking, I've got to figure out where can I scoot my kids up and take them to a safe place. So we're like living in this scary place of like, it's constantly on our minds, um, that fear. And plus, we're just seeing so much devastation. And so, a month into the war, there's like a WhatsApp group that gets started. um, um, like for farming and volunteer opportunities. So um, in this WhatsApp group, like this one person that's like moderator, she's connected to the farmers and she posts all of the opportunities that are available. And I'm at that point, like I'm feeling scared. Like I haven't left Modine in a month. I've never driven anywhere. What if you're in a field when a rocket is incoming? Like all of these farming opportunities are pretty close to Gaza, like not next to Gaza, but I'd say halfway between Modine and Gaza. So you don't have the 90-second leisure that you have in Modine, and that feels scary. And when you're out in a field, there's no mamad, there's no bomb shelter. Um, and so the feeling of like, okay, if I'm gonna go volunteer, like, what do I do? I have to like learn what to do if I'm in an open field when a rocket is incoming. Um, which is not something I ever thought I'd have to think about. But thank God, as an update, after the, I don't know, 20 to 30 times that I've done this, I've actually never had a rocket. I've never had an alarm on my phone um, come in during that time. So that's been really a blessing. Um, and so a month into the war, I see like this woman post that she is going to go eggplant picking, and she found a place and she lives in our neighborhood in Modi'in, and if anyone wants a ride, she's got open spots. And I'm thinking, okay, I can do this. I'm not going to drive, I'm not going to go by myself, but I'm going to go with people, and somehow that feels safer. um, and so we drive, it's like in the Beit Shemesh area. And meanwhile, like Beit Shemesh is having like 10 rockets a day. So it doesn't feel the safest, but we decide to go anyways. And we get there, and it is like these crazy, muddy tractor roads, like these dirt roads. You're not even sure where you're driving. It really wasn't like rainy season yet. The indents in the road are so deep that like the car gets stuck at one point, and we all have to get out and like push the car to get it out of these like deep indents in the road. um but we get there, and there's just like 50 volunteers of all ages and all backgrounds. And um we start like looking around. We're like, okay, like is someone work here? Who's the farmer? Who's the minahel? Like the manager? Like who do we ask what to do? And so we just kind of asked someone who looked like they knew what they were doing, and they were also a volunteer. And they're saying, okay, so we're packing eggplants today. This team over here is, it's like a giant greenhouse, and they're picking eggplants, and then they're going to cart them out to us, and we're going to pack them, and I'll show you how to pack them up. And so we're like, okay, so we just sit on the ground and we're going through the eggplants, and we're figuring out how to like, what's the proper size? Is this a good one? How to pack them properly. In the end, when I say we packed literal tons and tons of eggplants. It is insane how many eggplants that we picked and packed up. Um, Actually, I can share a screen of it. You can even see. So this was, let's see. Okay, so here's me at the eggplant farm. um, and like this was like how they taught us, like this is how you pack eggplants to be crated. And like this giant open back, and it's like 10 feet wide, 10 feet, maybe 6 feet tall, and like it's like a whole assembly line of like the five or so men who are in this group are the ones who are like lifting and stacking and lifting and stacking. And it's like you realize that the work that we did, okay, there's like 50 of us, and maybe it would have been the work of like five Thailandy people. But we're like, okay, we're doing something, and like this is like thousands of dollars for this farmer who we hadn't even seen at that point. And we're kind of, I don't know about other people, but I was feeling a bit like, where's this farmer even? Eventually, the farmer drives up, and it turns out that it was his son's bris. And he came after the bris, and it was just like, he was so appreciative that like we were all able to work and able to figure it out while he got to enjoy his family time and that simcha. So that was like really special. Um, but what's something that was really, really cool is in that like group, there was such a wide range of people who were picking and packing and lifting. Like you had teenagers, you had people who were 80 years old, who were all working together. You had people who were completely secular. You had people who were Haredi. And like the women who I was sitting on the ground with, packing eggplants, we're talking, they were a company, like this whole group of women were a company that worked, a team of people from all Haredi women who worked in the same office in Ramat Beit Shemesh. And it's like, these are not the people that you picture working on a farm. But here you are. And these are the people that you end up talking to. And it was actually hilarious because I mentioned I just made Aliyah from Chicago. And the woman I was sitting next to and said, "Oh, she's from Chicago." And sure enough, my father-in-law was her teacher. So every time you go anywhere in Israel, you talk to someone and there's some crazy connection. She's like, "Oh, I know your in-laws well. They're good people." Like, so that's just how that's how it happens. You just end up meeting just so many diverse people and you find that like we're really maybe once or twice connected. Like it's really we're all really connected as a people. Um so I started like sharing this experience. Oh, another time that I was actually picking eggplants in a field. The team was a group of cybersecurity, like super Hiloni. They were out with their team and they're picking too. We have, kibbutzniks. I picked with a group of Bedouin teens with special needs another time. Like the diversity is just, I mean, such a spectrum. Um, Such a unifying feeling that you go and you meet people you would have never met. And it's really interesting. Like you end up having these conversations with people that are meaningful and people open up. I find if you're like sitting next to someone or standing next to someone for 3, 4 hours, you end up having pretty meaningful conversations. Um, anyways, I started sharing these experiences on Facebook. Obviously, people were really kind and sweet about it. And after about a month or so, I started feeling like maybe I'm oversharing. Is it like a faux pas to like, is it like a social faux pas to post and share so many times? Like, are people going to be rolling their eyes and be like, okay, we get it. You like to farm. And things that you think about. And I thought like maybe I'm being insensitive. Like I'm posting pictures of enjoying the sunshine and I'm relatively safe and I'm enjoying my work and I'm smiling and I'm posing with a cauliflower and I'm having a good time and maybe that's insensitive for the people who are um whose family members are in Gaza or who have lost family members or who are really struggling and maybe that's insensitive to share about. um and then the other really hard feeling was guilt, which I felt like every Israeli who I have spoken to, and actually a lot of Jews who live Chutz la'aretz have also talked about, is the guilt that's akin, like adjacent to survivor guilt. That like, I feel guilty that I'm safe. I feel guilty that my husband is not fighting in Milouim when so many of my friends' husbands are in Milouim. I feel guilty that I have a bomb shelter, a mamad in my apartment when so many people don't. I feel guilty that I've only had a handful of rockets that we've dealt with when other people have had so many. And like we look around and we see like how much worse other people have it. And like I brought this up to my little sister-in-law who lives in Givat Shmuel, and she told me, she's like, "What? You feel guilt about this? I feel guilt because my husband was in Machal and he wasn't allowed to do Miluim. And I feel guilt because we have a miklat in our building, which is like a basement, a shared basement bomb shelter." And I'm like, "Right, but you don't have one in your unit." And she's like, "Yeah, but we have one." It's like, "I feel guilty because there are other people who don't even have one." And I'm like, "You have to run down 4 flights of stairs with a baby." Like, it's just, I feel like we've all feeling these heavy feelings, and something that um Tzvi's aunt who lives in Givatayim, something that she mentioned was that we're all experiencing war like this for the very first time ever as a people, like emotionally. Like, so many of us have never experienced war to this magnitude, and they're all just complex feelings that our brains do not know how to cope with. um and the fear spreads and darkness spreads, and we certainly see all over the world how much hate spreads. um but also light spreads, and it's important for us to keep our light and to focus on the bracha instead of the guilt, and focus on the gratitude, because we have to keep up morale as a people and not let that darkness really weigh us down and weigh down our nishamot, and our morale. Like, that's something that we've heard from soldiers all over here, that like when they come home and we're somber or they see the news, it's bad for their morale. But when they see news of goodness and of happiness and of light and of people doing good, it's good for their morale. And so, as hard as it is to put aside those feelings of guilt and fear, it's like that choosing to focus on happiness and on the brachot that are in our lives, and focusing on um, volunteering and other ways that we can give. So, because I really enjoy the farm work. Um, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always had this chalutzim dream, like this pioneer dream that like I want to go to Israel and work on a kibbutz and work the land. And I guess it's super romanticized, but it's just something I've always dreamt about. And this war, as terrible as it is, a silver lining for me. One of the brachot for me is that I've gotten this opportunity to work on these farms, when I would not have had the chance to otherwise. Um, and it's just a good reminder that like to find mitzvot that you really enjoy, that you can do b'samachta and with your whole heart. Um, and I guess what else is, I guess, so important is that like for me, like the first month of the war, I'm sure it's the same thing in Chutz La'aretz, that I spent. I think my screen time on my phone was up 200%, because I would stare at my phone, like unable to focus or think about anything else, and just scroll and see the news and see the death and see the hatred and the anti-Semitism, and it just, I like can't even focus on other responsibilities in my life, can't even focus on like my kids, because it just weighs you down so emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So for me, being in the field was like vital for my mental health, because it meant I was getting off my phone for 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it was, um, being out in the sunshine, getting some good serotonin from the sun, touching the earth, um, touching leaves and plants, talking with people, sharing experiences. That was like the best possible thing for mental health for me. Um, so, I mean, for the people who know me here well, I had a lovely garden in Skokie that I cared for and tended to for years. We don't quite have that at our Mirpesset, but this has been a great opportunity to get my hands dirty and enjoy that outdoor time. Um, so the more, I guess, transitioning more to learning what I've learned about agriculture in Israel. Um, is that like the more I've learned about agriculture here from all the different farmers that I've interacted with over the last few months, the more I appreciate how complicated it is to make food. And I'm not even talking about the like getting it to grocery stores because I haven't even dealt with that, but just from seed to harvest and packing, how complicated the process is. So anytime you drive anywhere in Israel, you've got like city, 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 and every space in between is just farmland. So anytime you drive anywhere out of your city, you're driving past farm, 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 farm. You drive to Tel Aviv, you pass 50 farms. And if you've driven in Israel, you're bound to have seen these massive greenhouses everywhere. I had never actually been into an Israeli greenhouse before this experience, and it was really unlike anything that I had anticipated. I didn't know where to start. I guess the main thing I was surprised about were the trellises that are used to do vertical farming. Like in my mind, vertical farming is like, oh, okay, you've got like maybe stacked tables or something where like herbs can grow or lettuce can hydroponic grow, or maybe there are walls and things stick out of it. I had no idea what that meant. But in Israel, things that are grown in greenhouses, well, right now the big thing is strawberries, which are in season and everyone's very excited about. They're also very expensive, very expensive. So they're treats. Um, but the main things that are in greenhouses are things that need to be grown year round because Israelis need them year round, which are tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and eggplants. Those are completely necessary in Israeli society to have year round. And I never pictured the process of what it was like to to grow to grow vertical farming in the greenhouse. So for a visual, actually, you know what? I have shared screen and I'm gonna utilize that. Shnia. Let's see, how do I go back? Oh, here we go. Sorry, excuse me a second while I pull this up. How do I get out? Okay. Okay. So, nope, not that one. That was not a shameless plug.
No, but you should do that before you're done talking.
Okay, so this is what cucumbers look like in a vertical farm. So all of these wires here are pulleys, and then there's like wires all along here that help it grow vertically. So we did that, and it's sorry, excuse me. It's massive, these plants that you have to trellis. Where's the one I was actually trying to get to? This one. Let's see if that works this time. Okay, so these are the baby tomato plants. Each tomato plant is maybe a foot tall, maximum maybe 6 inches. And so this day, like we get there, the farmer asks us to, it's just all he says is that it's cherry tomatoes. We have no idea what that's going to mean. But I get there, it's just me. And like this, you can't tell from this picture, this greenhouse was probably the length of a basketball court. So there was like hundreds and hundreds of tomato plants because they're like just a couple inches apart. And so we had to use these like pulleys to attach them to the base of the plant and then wrap the tomato plant around the pulley so that it could grow vertically. And in my mind, what that meant was, oh, okay, I have trellised 200 tomato plants. That's like it. Now it's just going to grow vertically. not quite. So back to this one. Um, so a cucumber plant, which is massive, like each one of these strings is a separate plant. And they all started about that same size, as just a few inches tall as those other plants. And when we spoke to this farmer, he told us that like he used to have so many farm help who all left at the start of the war. And apparently they need to be retrellised every 3 to 4 days. So in my mind, the beginning I was thinking like, oh, okay, like I trellised all these tomato plants. Job done. No, no, for months and months, these plants need to be retrellised. I mean, um, this particular farm greenhouse was, I mean, the size of a football field. This thing was massive. There are thousands and thousands of plants. I'm sure that he probably had 10 people who worked full time just wrapping these plants around and around. Um, and we get there, and it took 3 hours for my friend and I to do 2 rows. And um, and we're just you just rewrapping, because if you don't rewrap it, they get too heavy and they start growing towards the ground, and then the cucumbers get mushy. They don't grow properly. They get rot. They don't get enough sun, so they don't get dark enough, and then they don't get picked fast enough. And Israelis like their cucumbers like this big and nice and skinny, so they're crunchy and sweet. And if they're too big, the farmers can't sell them to the supermarkets and they get thrown away. So he told us, it's been weeks and he's been trying to get all this done, but he can't get all of this done on his own, or with, the 3 workers that he had left out of 20. So we go there and it is so much work, unbelievable amount of work. And as it was, like he said to us, like, listen, cucumbers that look like a certain shape, they're not going to be any good. You can feel free to take them. So I ended up taking, with his blessing, and he really like insisted I take like a giant crate of cucumbers, like pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of cucumbers. So yes, I made pickles, and I gave giant bags to everyone in my building, and I gave giant bags to both of the kids' gons. But you just see like how much food waste happens when there aren't enough people to help with the farm. It just goes to waste. And that's the same thing that's going on right now, because it's citrus season and things need to get picked at the right time. And with the amount of rain that we've had, they haven't been able to have, like, they're not getting the regular volunteers. Like, I was supposed to go, but the rain has been on and off for the last 3, 4 days, and I haven't been able to pick because, it rains for an hour, stops for 20 minutes, or maybe it's on for another hour, but by the time you get there, it's going to be raining again. So you feel bad, but it's hard. It's hard, and it's hard that that's what the nature of it is. So um, it's also just giving me a great appreciation of like you're farming what's in season and being in tune to the land, and what's, you know like Hanukkah time. This was the biggest thing for me. I think the biggest aha for me was during Hanukkah season. I harvested olives. And for me, that was like the miracle of Hanukkah is during olive season. And that was particularly special. But seeing how it connects to our holidays during the holidays, and seeing how much Israelis in general are so in tune to what's in season, because some things you get year round, but other things like, peaches you get for 2 months out of the year. Um, Strawberries you get for these other 2 months of the year. They're going on right now. Figs you get for 1 month. And that's just the nature of the land here. And everyone knows, oh, it's August. We're going to have lychees. And everyone, it's just so in tune because we don't, otherwise, you don't get it. There are no lychees any other time of the year. And so, yes, you're going to spend way too much money on them, but it's the only time of the year that you're going to have it. And it's really special. Um, so it's just given me and another appreciation of like the timing of food and the produce and I guess also of the different holidays because they mean something different now. Like we see the different harvests at the different times. Um, like coming from Skokie, I actually would always look into my garden at Tu B'Shvat time, and shockingly, even at the end of January, you'd start to see the tiniest sprouts coming up in the garden, the tiniest sprouts. But Tu B'Shvat every year, I was so excited to see popping through the ground, even when it was freezing, the tiniest little sprouts. Um, but in Israel right now, everything is in full bloom. Um, I went on a hike in Modi'in a couple of weeks ago, and you have like the almond flowers are in bloom, and the poppies are in bloom, and the rakefet are in bloom, and everything is just so colorful. And the fruits are starting to be in season, and everything's green. And it's like, oh, this, I get it. It's like, it feels like a birthday with how much color and life there is in the land. Like it feels like a celebration for the trees because it's really just, it feels like a party, even though there's a lot of rain. But it looks festive and it's nice. It feels alive. Um, so I guess a few last thoughts. Um, the most, because this is what I get asked the most often. What was the most fun thing to harvest? My answer would be cauliflower because you literally have to shecht a cauliflower. Um, you, the farmer gave us machetes and showed us how to properly shecht a cauliflower because the stems are this thick and how to turn it in one big swipe. Um, Super fun. I can actually pull up a picture of that as well. Um, one sec. How do I get out of here? Oh, nope. Never mind. I don't know how to go to my pictures. Sorry.
No problem.
Hi. No, it's here. Don't click, don't touch. Oh yeah, this is from Clementine picking last week. Oh, avocados. That one was really fun to pick also, just because when you pick them, they have the perfect snap. You just go and they just perfectly snap off. You go to a tree and there's 200 avocados and they're so beautiful. And I mean, my friend and I picked kilos and kilos of them. Um, the strawberry picking was also, this was in the strawberry field. How do I do this? Sorry, I'm very new. So like you can see, like this is only half. This is from where I started. This is half of the field. Like how this woman and I, we spent 3 hours tending to these plants and we didn't even make it across we made 3/4 of one row. And so you see like how much help these farmers really need. Because this isn't even half. This is one greenhouse of many greenhouses. Nope, not Hanukkah. Sorry, I am not great at this screen sharing. Here, cauliflower. Okay, cauliflowers. Super fun. You can see my machete. um, and I mean, we were out in this field. This was December, and it was so hot. I got sunburned on that day, but it was really beautiful. I mean, packing up all of these. Shockingly, the entire, like that whole area just smelled like cauliflower, which you wouldn't realize is a thing, but the whole thing smells not the most pleasant. But it was quite a sight, and just talking with Israelis and Jews from all walks of life. So that one was really fun. And the best smelling one was the lemons. So
Mm.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share now. And okay, I'm gonna be done with the sharing. Okay, so I guess
Well,
that's
before you're done with the sharing,
yeah.
can you share some of your artwork, Matuka, and tell us how we can support
Oh,
you?
sure. I actually so glad you asked. I actually just launched an Etsy shop today. I was like, I had been like working on it. I was like, all right, I got it. Um, my handle is called Made by Matuka. Um, let's see if I can
Can you put
pull.
a link in the chat?
Yes, I can do that. That might be easier. So I do, um, yes, I will definitely include a link.
And if you want to see one of her pieces in person, come to my office.
Yay! Okay, so these are like some of the paintings I have of like cacti and of Masada. This was a custom one that I did for someone. Like they sent me a photograph and I painted from the photograph. This is like in Modi'in and Jerusalem. Um, so you can visit me. I'll send my link.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so I'll send a link. Basically, I'm sending high quality um, prints, and I'm able to send them like from a printing distributor in the United States. So shipping is not so crazy. It's not shipping directly from Israel, um, but it is my artwork. So um, I will share that link in a few minutes. Um, but yeah. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, let's open it up for questions. Thank you so much, Matuka. This has been amazing to get to see and hear and listen to you. And while people think about their questions, I'll just reflect that when you shared that you feel guilty for having your relative safety in the same breath as saying that you were nervous to go to the fields where you have less than 90 seconds to get to safety, I think was very powerful for me. I know many of us here, right, share that guilt, as you alluded to, that we are in total safety here. And so I just want to applaud your bravery and name that that's like not an easy thing.
Thank you.
And really inspiring for me. Judith, please.
Hi, Matuka. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed all your information about the agriculture. Your story, especially about the cucumbers, reminded me of something I read that I found incredibly heartening. It was shortly after it was announced that organizations usually involved in tzedakah food distribution were taking over the chore of organizing the farmers' requests for help. And there was a response from a WhatsApp group for Filipino caregivers all over Israel, who had a chat group, just as to keep in touch with each other. And the leader of it suggested this is something we can do. They all had one day off a week, which was Shabbat.
Mm.
And that's when presumably there would be a dearth of volunteers. So she organized a group. There were enough of them that they hired a bus, and it was so successful. And what brought it to mind is that she said they all went to this one cucumber farm, and in one day, they not only harvested cucumbers, but they got the whole trellis framework all finished. And the farmer was just over the moon with excitement and showered them with cucumbers to take home, which they distributed to their clients. And
Yeah.
they had so much fun because many of them were raised on farms or in the country in the Philippines that they went back again. They started doing it several months in succession. Every month or they would have a day.
Amazing. That's
What
very cool.
what really impressed me is how the leader of the group said she'd been a resident for 20 years and felt that Israel was her country. The interviewer asked her, how is it you can give up your one day of rest? She said, this is how we can give back. And the remark I wanted to make about the survivor guilt and all that, we went through this with the Vietnam War when I was a graduate student in New York, and my professor pointed out that keeping the culture going is as important as being on the front lines. You have to show the soldiers what they're fighting for, so to speak, and that society functions, and in Israel, really, as no other place, the unity that's being publicized and everybody helping out has just been remarkably uplifting for everyone.
Thank you so much, Judith. Sounds really great.
Thank you for
Rivari,
sharing.
I see that you're also raising your hand here.
Yes, trying to, yes. Hey, Metuka. Hey, everybody. I'm
Hi.
sorry I wasn't present for the first part. I was invited to a small gathering with Doug Emhoff, who's the second gentleman here in the States and who's leading, a lot of efforts around anti-Semitism. And I wanted to go and just express our gratitude for, the military support that the U.S. gave to Israel right after October 7th, and to advocate for its continued presence. So felt like that was important to be at. But Metuka, this is I think it's being recorded, so I'll watch the presentation. I got a taste of it when I saw you in Israel, but it was just a taste. And I just want to say how awesome it is that you made Aliyah. You did it. Making Aliyah is always a huge transition and a big deal. And it's such a deep personal value and deep communal value. And you did it this summer. And then October 7th happened. And I've just been so uplifted by the way that you and Svi both have like just jumped all in and found so many ways to help and to be involved. And it's really just like such a beautiful spirit of what Aliyah is all about, what Am Yisrael is all about, what Eretz Yisrael is all about. And just wanted to say how much you've inspired me, and how beautiful your artwork is. And you should all check out the website. And
Thank you.
this is just, it just means so much to me to have this like continued connection between Skokie Valley and your family and Israel and Skokie. And just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rivari. Rivka, I see that you also have your hands up. You have a
I really enjoyed it because it brought back memories. When I was in Israel, we volunteered with a group called Lefleket. And
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I think they're still working. And I realized there is this like democratizing and everybody coming together. And I think that was one of the things some of my friends in Jerusalem have told us, that people who usually don't talk to each other, who may not even like each other, were working together in many ways in Jerusalem. And I think the farming thing, you're doing something helpful, but there's also a camaraderie that is really important too, that you're doing something helpful, but creating bonds between people. And I think that's so important in what's going on now. But brought back memories of picking in the mud, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Lefhead is still really popular. It's thriving in Israel right now, doing organized group trips as well. So I definitely seeing a lot from them. They're still doing their thing. No, and it's so true. I feel like it really is a unifier for Jews. Like the one person who I picked with said, yeah, but just, once the war's done, everyone's going to go back to being divided and hating each other. And I said to him, I said, you know what, but maybe we'll just be that much more bonded. And I guess that's the way you have to look at it. The like, yeah, I mean, at some point, God willing, things will go back to normal, but hopefully the normal will include a bit more connection to each other.
I mean,
Yeah. I shared my Etsy shop. Hopefully that is the correct link.
Yes,
it worked for me.
works.
So
Okay,
Works.
great. So that is my my Etsy shop. You can see my paintings. I paint using pastel, and sometimes I mix with watercolor, which is not intuitive, but it works. And they're just they're all from photos that I've taken of Israel from hiking and traveling. So yeah, and if anyone has meaningful places that they've visited in Israel or really elsewhere, you can also I also do commissioned artwork based on photos as well. Anyways, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone coming to hear me talk about this experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Metuka. This was amazing. Thank you for making the time and preparing, and also for doing all this amazing work. We feel lucky to be your friends here in Skokie Valley. And this was such a beautiful way to celebrate Tu B'Shvat, and to really hear that experience of the original experience in the land. And I invite everyone to join Rav Ari tonight at 8 p.m. in the Rabbinic Suite, where he will talk about Zohar and trees. As extension of the Tu B'Shvat experience and celebration. So thank you again so much, Metuka, and be safe. And we're thinking about you and your family, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
Take care.
Metuka.
So good to
Bye.
hear you.
Bye. Thank you.
Take
Blessings.
care.
Thank you.